6-day trip back in April to the Nagano prefecture. During my time in Japan, I had agreed with my granny that we'd go on a trip together, the three of us, Melli, Oba-chan and me, and we decided to explore some places in the Nagano prefecture. Nagano is located in what looks like right the middle of Japan. It's pretty easy to reach from Tokyo by taking the train and simply going west. Nagano is known for its hot springs, mountains, and in general the nature there. However, we were heading there to see a bit of everything, including some small towns. The first place we went to though is actually not in the Nagano prefecture, but very close. The plan was to go to Kusatsu Onsen, which is close to Nagano but still in Gunma, and then in the evening stay in Ueda, which is one of Nagano's bigger cities. Of course, I had packed a bunch of film to document this trip, and in this video I'm keen on showing you the results because I think I shot some pretty good stuff this week. So we made it to our first stop, Kusatsu Onsen, where due to the lighting I didn't really shoot too much, just a couple random shots including this one from a moment we spent enjoying the foot bath. And then there's also this. This is a little activity we took part in where we get a quick crash course on how to cool the hot spring water the traditional way. This was on our bus ride on the way to Ueda. You know why I shot this photo. Also, I'm loving the color contrast here. Something about the Japanese you might know already is that they are prolific train sleepers, and that is something I was keen to document, so look out for more shots like this one. You know how much I love these photos looking out the train's window. This is a wonderful example in my opinion. I really like how this one turned out. Next, we came to this small remote place called Tokura, where my granny seemed to know a spot. We drove up to a little trail that took us to an old castle with a cool view. I shot a couple photos on the way, none turned out special though, but I do like this one, which is basically my POV walking up the trail behind my granny, and I suppose this one is also not bad. Of course, I'm fond of the subframing. Also, I like how the trees cover up the middle and add another layer to the composition. Personally, I love the Japanese shoes-off culture and how even in public areas like here they leave slippers for the visitors. And here is a cute photo of my granny, however the ground was so bright that the film is not quite coping with it. I was really keen on getting this shot with the minimalistic composition, however sadly the lighting was pretty rough and it shows in the photo, it just doesn't look very pleasing. This one though, I think is lovely. Watch out for many more compositions like this one, in which my granny who always walks ahead becomes the small subject in a larger environment. shot this rather spontaneously, and it has potential, but a couple minor things that just make it not work properly. The placement of everything just feels a bit off, especially the road sign that comes out of my granny's head. So this was the next spot that my granny knew of and wanted to check out. These are rice fields, which later in summer become all green and lush looking. Unfortunately, we were a bit too early, so the fields were only earth at this point. But I really like this shot I was able to get of my granny in front of the wonderful backdrop. I think the downward slope makes for a pretty captivating angle here. Then we walked all the way down into the valley. Along the way I shot a couple more photos, one of which I like a lot, this one. We were passing an old couple's house and one was picking some things out in the garden. I love how in the composition this unique pose is framed in between some trees. Then, in the valley, we wanted to catch a bus, but it was scheduled in an hour's time or so later. I don't quite remember, but the point is we didn't want to just wait around and we were getting hungry, so we looked for a place to eat, but everywhere was either closed or already full, so we had walked and searched for a good bit without success and then needed to head back. It was right then that this random guy noticed that we seemed a bit, in need of help, and so he was so kind and drove us to the next convenience store where we bought something to eat and then walked to the next bus stop. After our ride, I asked them if I may take a portrait, and that is how this photograph was shot. Then, before we continue, I want to briefly talk about the lovely people at Squarespace who are kindly sponsoring the video. Squarespace is a great all-in-one website platform that we photographers can use for our portfolio, or any other website that we want to make. I've been using Squarespace for about 3 or so years for my portfolio, and one day, when I make a photo book, I also want to have my online shop on my own website, which Squarespace has all the tools for. What's great in my opinion is the user interface, because someone like me who doesn't have much experience with website building can use Squarespace rather easily without needing to watch hours upon hours of tutorials. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can start off with one of their many templates and then from there customize that to your own needs and taste. Head to squarespace.com for a 14-day free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/TeoCrawford to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for supporting me in my work here. I really appreciate it. Then, after catching the bus, we caught a train to spend the rest of the afternoon exploring Besho Onsen. For reasons you will already know, this was a fantastic experience for me, and I adore this shot with the multiple windows and the glossy bottom that reflects the moody light from outside. Also, a cool bonus I like is that the train driver is in the mirror, albeit they're blurry, but I like it nevertheless. The place was pretty small, and we just walked around finding new things to check out, such as this temple where I shot a couple photos. I really like this one, even though the composition feels a little wonky. I just think it looks pretty cool how my granny is standing in between all of these pillars? I don't know what you call these. the afternoon slowly came to an end and it gradually became darker, we caught the same train back to Ueda, and of course I was having a jolly time in the train again shooting. I really like how this one turned out. Having just this one guest and the train driver in the mirror as the two people in frame gives the scene a calm energy. It's giving me Spirited Away vibes. I think what also emphasizes the atmosphere is the lighting. Not much was left, but enough that the outside is visible, but not bright enough to distract. On the next day, we were going to move to another town called Komoro, but before leaving, we checked out the Ueda Castle.
잠들지 못한 쓸쓸한 이 밤 위태로운 달 그림자 비틀거리다 담배 탓일까 씁쓸하니까 연기처럼 지난 기억이 피어오른다 Starry night, starry night, starry night, your head in the palm.
So to get to the next town, you guessed it, we rode the train again, and you guessed it again, I was having great fun. I'm only realizing now that it feels like half of my rolls are just train-related photos. I quite fancy all of these, but especially this one. I love how this one is layered and the person at the back checking their hair becomes the main subject, but at the same time, it feels like one of many points of interest in the shot. We arrived in Komoro, and oh, do I love the color contrast when photographing these orange taxis on a rainy day.
오래되는 맘 습관처럼 도착한 이 밤 창가에 앉아 명광년일까 내게 온 시간
On this day, we just wanted to explore the town a little, and as you can see, the weather was a little wet. While that might not be optimal, we didn't let it stop us from having fun and seeing a couple new places, and under the protection of my umbrella, I also got a couple shots. I really like this portrait that I shot of Melli. It's pretty simple, yet has such a mood and the colours are really pleasing, so I'm happy with the result. Then here, I was really fond of this almost sneaky opening to the neighbouring table as our lunch spot. I shot this photo and I think it's not bad, but actually not what I was intending. I think the more anonymous looking framing with just the hands is really cool. The composition of the photograph on the other hand is too revealing to have the same effect. In the afternoon, my granny wasn't feeling too well to further explore and decided to enjoy the onsen in the hotel, while Melli and I had a mission for the remainder of the day. Or well, actually it was my mission. I wanted to visit the various little camera shops in town and see if any were selling some 35mm Fujifilm. The first one was sadly sold out, and then the second shop was a bit random. Outside it looked quite run down, yet it was staffed and full of items for sale, not really camera related though, but I asked the lady who was running it whether she sells some film, and indeed, the shop does have photography related products too, as Google suggested. So I bought a roll and then asked whether I may take a portrait, and that's how I ended up with this cute photo. Later, we visited another shop that was bigger and felt more like a combination of camera shop and photography studio. Two guys were having a good time and just chatting, which I felt a little sorry for interrupting, but the owner was super enthusiastic and we chatted for maybe 20 or even 30 minutes and he showed me all sorts of interesting things. Honestly, I don't even remember whether he had film left, but I shot some photos. And then in the end, I asked him to take a seat next to his friend again for a portrait, and so I shot this here, which I think is really cute. Then there was one last shop to check out. It was an office tools shop that was recommended to us by a local coffee shop owner because apparently it's run by cats, and Melli and I are huge cat fans.
Wieder durchstiefelt. Wie haben wir das bei der vorhin nicht gefunden?
So yeah, you can see it was a great success. We got to know the two runners of the shop, oh, and the original one, and of course we did also buy something, and for me personally, this was the funniest part, when Melli was paying and one of the cats was just checking if everything is under control. This is one of my favorite shots of the trip. I just love how the cat is staring down at Melli's hand as if it was actually checking the transaction. Naturally though, I got a couple more shots. I also love this one, even though the composition and lighting and everything is really not good, but whatever, it's super cute. This one is also fantastic, I find. I just love the environment this cat is in inside this booth with the keyboard right behind. Yeah, a greatly successful visit to this random office shop. During the night, the storm passed, and the next morning we had wonderful sunshine hit the town, and I went upstairs to this lounge, which is a room between the baths and the hallway. I had spotted this place an hour earlier when I went to the baths in the morning, and I thought I ought to come back while no one is here to photograph the calm morning atmosphere. I really like this first shot here that just perfectly captures the morning atmosphere in this room. I also love this detail shot though for the various points of interest, the table with the disinfectant, the sofas, and the cute pink foot massaging machines. At least that's what I think those are. Then, that morning was the day that we were going to leave Komoro and head to the next place. However, we were a little overly on time, and so Melli and I decided to take a stroll close to the station. Granny wanted to just chill. Right outside the station, I saw these two people. One had apparently driven the other to the station, and they were friendly, saying goodbye. I caught this moment of them bowing to each other, which I think is so cool. I just love how simple the shot is, yet packed with that little hint of action and freezing this moment. After a brief train ride, we arrived in Tanaka, where my granny knew about a post town that she wanted to visit. A post town, also known as post station, is where back in the Edo period, travellers could stop and rest on the way. Many of these have been preserved or restored and have become tourist attractions, the most famous probably being the Narai-juku. The one we were heading to is called Unno-juku. The lighting conditions were a bit tough to work with, so I didn't shoot that much. One simple shot of the street, and this one. There was a school group that passed us, and the moment I decided to take a picture was when one of the caretakers told the kids that they'll run together as a game of sorts, and this is how the photograph came to be. I love the frozen motion again. Our next destination was further away, and so we had to get back to the station, but we were so close to the next station of the same line at this point that we decided to continue walking to it. Again though, we were really early, I think maybe an hour or so, and therefore Melli and I decided to explore some more while Granny decided to just chill out a bit. We were getting a little hungry and decided to head to a nearby Lawson's, but on the way we met this woman with her food van. She called it an Ido Super, which translates to moving supermarket or traveling supermarket. She explained to us that she likes to go to places where supermarkets aren't that close and provided the locals with a closer option. So instead of going to the Lawson's, we decided to buy from her. Before we left though, I asked her if I might take a portrait of her and the van. I love this result. She looks so proud in the photo. Here we made it to the train that was going to take us across some mountains and to Kubuchisa station, which is just outside of Nagano, where my granny would then catch a train back home to Tokyo, whereas Melli and I had planned to go 2 more days and visit a friend in a place called Shimosua. On the train, I was of course very keen on shooting again. I love how this shot turned out, it's such a good moment. The main character in the foreground enjoying a snack and reading the paper, while at the back this person with a red cap looks over suspiciously as if they'd heard that someone is snacking and they want some too. I just think this one works really well. And then I also love this train shot of my granny having a train conversation with this other random guest that had taken the opposite seat. That train ride was so beautiful, but quite hard to photograph actually. I must say most of these didn't turn out too well, but I like this one. After saying goodbye to Granny, we took another train, and the afternoon sun was slowly getting lower, making for some gorgeous scenes in this train ride too. And at last, we made it to Shimosua, where we were going to stay at a friend's place for 2 nights. After arriving, she told us to go see the sunset at the nearby park, and so we followed her advice. I am in love with this shot. I don't do too much minimalism, but sometimes it just hits right, and this is one of those occasions. The shapes, the color contrast, the lighting, and then the lone subject, I love it. The next morning, I was in awe of the pretty lights falling into the house, and so I shot a couple photos. I love this detail shot of the chair. I wasn't actually expecting much of this while shooting, but it turned out so good looking. This was on Fujicolor 100, by the way.
애써 웃음 짓고 있지만
On this day, we decided to go to Matsumoto and explore the city. It's about a 30-minute train ride away.
문득 모든 게 서럽게
a small shopping street and we enjoyed the lively energy and looked through some of the shops. In one of the shops we ended up buying something and I began chatting with the owner, seeing as it wasn't really busy, and as I had been doing, I asked them if I may take a portrait. I sadly don't have any footage, but I did make this screen recording of the light meter, and yes, I was going to shoot this at 1/15 of a second handheld. I absolutely love this result. I had high hopes because I knew the lighting was pretty interesting, with a strong, cool lamp next to the owner contrasting the otherwise rather warmly lit shop. I think this shot turned out so well. The lighting is pleasing in my opinion, and I like how the transparent curtain slightly diffuses the lamp. The cashier's table looks so cool with all the items spread across. Also, the details at the back just give the whole shot so much character. I'm very happy with this one. Here's another shot I like a lot. We had continued exploring and at one point we were walking across this street and I spotted this post worker and tried to get a shot, but the angle wasn't good. A minute later we met again, and this time I kind of liked the angle, and so I pointed the camera and they noticed me and posed. What tops this off though is that there was another group and this person in black quickly passed, and in typical Japanese fashion they didn't want to ruin the shot, and so they bent down while their friend just waited. I think it's so funny though how with the 35mm lens everything is visible anyway, so thank you for the politeness. However, I actually much preferred the shot this way anyway than if it only featured the post worker. The next morning, Melli and I were going to leave. However, first I wanted to document what was going on in my friend's garden. She had a couple friends come over who are experienced in building stuff because she was building a shed. I really like the photos I was able to get, especially this one, which captured a moment of laughter. Before leaving, I also shot this portrait of her, which I think is super cute. We spent our last day exploring this small town called Okaya, where my dad used to live a long time ago. And then, late in the afternoon, we caught our train that took us back to Tokyo to my granny's place. This was such a wonderful and memorable trip, and I'm very happy with many of the photographs I was able to capture. I also had so much fun revisiting this week while editing this video, and I hope you had a good time joining me. Before I say goodbye, I'd like to thank the lovely Patreon community that is supporting me in my work here. Thank you so much. If you're interested in Lightroom presets, extra videos, or even postcards, then you can check out my page via the link in the description. By the way, I also have a print shop in case you're interested. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope to see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.
내게 다 사랑